Hi there, welcome to my video. This is Lotus, and I'm with Lotus Lindley, Art of Sacred Embodiment. So I wanted to do a short video today on the topic of embodiment. Embodiment is now the phase that many people are in as we continue to move through the ascension process. That ascension process being very vast and many facets to it. But what we're talking about in general is the raising of frequency, the expansion of consciousness, and recognizing our multidimensional realities and our multidimensional beings that all are connected with frequencies and expansion of consciousness in connection with the heart. So, embodiment is a topic right now because many people, as I said, are beginning to move into this phase of ascension. So this phase of ascension being that we are not going up and out anywhere. We are drawing down higher, higher frequency energies, information, codes, ways of being, qualities, down into our physical human form, creating the multi-dimensional experience and an expansion of what we know humanity to be. So the embodiment piece, if we just think for a moment, we're always embodying something, right? If you take a moment right now and just close your eyes, and as you close your eyes, just feel into your being what you're feeling. So notice how your day is going and what seems to be that predominant quality that is present. Have you had a peaceful day? Are you feeling aligned and fairly even keel? Have you had a frustrating day or evening? Are you experiencing agitation? Do you have depression? Do you have joy? Are you feeling a sense of abundance and freedom? So as we start to look at these different qualities, whatever we are predominantly experiencing, particularly on that emotional level and that vibratory level, that's what we're embodying at that time, right? So what we're going to talk about a little bit more is we're going to expand the human qualities or the human emotions that tend to drive us from the ego perspective to a little bit more expansive understanding of divine and sacred embodiment. So again, if we were to go back to how we're feeling, or better yet, even imagining being in the presence, for instance, of somebody who has unresolved anger. So somebody with a lot of unresolved anger, there's a good chance that no matter how they're showing up, maybe in that moment they're actually feeling fairly good, but yet you can sense and know that there is this undercurrent of tenuousness regarding the anger. You can sense the anger even if there's a smile on the face. So what that starts to let us know is that being, that person has a deeper level, a signature almost, we could say, that is what they embody more often than not. And so that is really what they're functioning from. Their stories, their wounds, their fears, all of that. So then if you think about somebody who, when you're in their presence, you just want to talk to them and you want to share with them all of your, all of your problems, your concerns. So we could say that that person that you are speaking with embodies, and you can just feel it when you're in their presence, because they are embodying perhaps the qualities of compassion. Okay. The same thing when you're around somebody who's very grounded and maybe centered. Maybe they don't need to say a lot, but you just feel a sense of security, safety, and clarity when you're in their presence. It's because you are sensing their embodied state. So we're always embodying something, and oftentimes with humans, we're going to shift and we're going to fluctuate a lot, right? Because we really are directed, sort of like a puppy, by our emotional moment to moment state, our mental stories that go along with those emotions, and vice versa. And so, what we're representing or the energy that we're holding can change moment to moment. That being said, most of us are going to have a signature. I don't even want to use that word because that's a bigger word than what I'm meaning right now. But we're going to have a predominant underlying quality that we embody. And most of the time, if we have not done a lot of our own healing and integration, it's going to be connected to whatever those stories and wounds are, whether they are conscious or unconscious. So that's the human experience in a nutshell. Okay. So now let's take this a bit further. So we're going to move into what is happening on our planet and what is happening to humanity. Humanity is going through a very quickened evolutionary process, and that quickened evolutionary process is going to be an embodied evolution. So it's a spiritual evolution, but it's going to take place in our physical body. Just as anybody who is holding a lot of anger, let's say over a lifetime, that is unresolved, that person's cells are going to be reverberating, all right, with that frequency, with that level of density. That frequency is going to be wired throughout their body. Nervous system, brain, tissues, all of that. Because everything is energy, right? So everything moves from the subtle into density. So moves into subtle, meaning it's sort of, we can't necessarily sense, see, or touch or feel it, even though it's there, into the gross. And the gross is meaning more dense, hard, solid, tangible. So as we move through the ascension process, we are receiving opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to take in higher frequencies that hold higher states of being that affect in us higher emotions and feelings in our human experience. So, say for instance, you receive a light language activation from me, someone else, but from me, so you work with me, and all of a sudden you recognize that you have all of this joy, or you feel like laughing, right? And afterwards, you have like this buoyancy, and you feel free of whatever you walked into the room with, and you've got this unbounding playfulness level, levity, and joy. And I'm using that as an example because that's really one of the first experiences that's very common with the light language is joy. So basically, you have then just received this frequency, which has started to clear away some of the blockages that inhibit joy in your life, in your emotional body, in your mental body, in your physical body, in your experience. And that joy in that moment, you are beginning to have a sense of embodying a very different reality because you have just received these higher frequencies with this quality of consciousness, right, that expresses itself as joy. Now, as we continue to be activated and to say yes and to receive these higher quality, higher frequency downloads, we begin to embody those energies, those qualities, those perspectives, i.e., those new levels of consciousness, which then ripple out and begin to alter our experience of ourself and life. So I hope that's clear. So, and this can be any qualities, right? It can be peace. It can be a new sense of freedom. It can be a new recognition of your own wholeness. It can be the remembrance, even if it's just for a moment, of your divinity and your innate connection to divine source. Because these are all of the qualities that we are being invited to say yes to and to bring down into our bodies to alter our reality and to alter our consciousness, to transform and evolve us into very new kinds of humans, right? Into divine humans, into higher beings. So that embodiment that I'm talking about is going on for everybody. It doesn't mean that, particularly if we're in the beginning stages of this process, that we're always going to be joyful once we get that glimmer of it, right? But what it does mean is that we will consistently be creating new baselines where that becomes more of our truth than, say, perhaps the depression, which has now been cleared out and is no longer a part of our reality. And this can happen very, very quickly. It happens very, very quickly because this is the trajectory that we are on. So now we've talked about like the emotional qualities, that energetic experience that shifts our perception, our perspective, our conscious awareness, and it also heals our body, right? Because the more higher frequencies that we download in our system, where our cells used to reverberate with anger or maybe depression and lethargy, now what's starting to happen is they're starting to percolate, right? They're starting to speed up and sort of vibrate faster with these higher qualities of joy, peace, freedom, wisdom, all sorts of things. So now let's take it another step further when we're talking about embodiment. This is where ascension, the process, if you're not really familiar with it, it starts to feel perhaps a little out there. And that's okay. I felt like it was a little out there as well, but now as I'm moving along my own path and journey, it makes sense, and it's not really that out there. It feels very normal. So the other aspect of embodiment that we are moving into is that we as humans have multiple facets to our being, because our being is much bigger than our one this egoic construct of my personality, your personality, what you do in the third dimensional realm. And again, the dimension is just frequency and consciousness, right? It's density, it's polarity, it's duality. And where we're moving is moving more into unification, oneness, and wholeness. So, but we need higher frequencies in order to access those states of being. So we all have multiple higher selves, right? Or highest selves that are supporting us, helping us along the way, guiding us. And just because we can't see them, because they are on higher dimensions that vibrate, right, at a higher frequency, so they're more subtle than our physical form, and they can expand, right? Dimension, 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 dimension. So what we're also beginning to embody is those parts of us, those aspects of us that are already existing, that are wiser than we are, because they're functioning from more of a place that is unified, whole, from higher frequencies, closer to source consciousness. So they're functioning from, big T truth versus small T truth, right? Small T truth, in my experience and, opinion, is a truth that continues to change as I evolve. So even what I'm talking about right now, based on what I know right now, is a small lowercase t truth. But our highest selves function from capital T truths, right? And I'm sure that this sort of expands in the same way as those different aspects move and move on the higher spectrum of the dimensional frequencies, consciousness, and realms. So part of what those who are saying yes to this, those who are doing this inner work to actually transmute our density into more light, what we are also doing is meeting our guides. And not our guides that necessarily are just existing on these other realms, but our guides that are aspects of ourselves and that are teaching us, and they are basically helping us to remember their reality because we've already existed from that. And as this relationship with our own wholeness takes place, we then also begin to download and embody whatever gifts, skills, talents that we need to know now on this plane in order to help and serve others, right? So we're kind of like downloading our divine purpose, because we're activating our divine blueprint, which is very much connected with our highest self or highest selves, wisdom and love. So we're embodying and coming into a new wholeness and integration of our being, functioning from our human perspective, right? But we are beginning to embody our divine consciousness. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. We have to say yes to this. We have to be open. We have to be doing the inner work. We have to understand how to connect and how to learn what they are offering. And we have to be committed then to sharing that out in the world. Because that's part of this cycle that we're in. And that's why many of us who are on this path of teaching and sharing, we're all learning at the same time. But we're all committed to doing this in order to help those who are just coming on the path. So I think that's really all I want to say right now about embodiment. But the embodiment piece, the sacred embodiment, the divine embodiment, is so that we begin to walk on this earth which is also ascending and evolving and raising its frequency, so that we can walk on this earth embodying divine qualities, being divine presence that can radiate out and interact from these higher levels of consciousness, where we can be holding and anchoring the frequencies of the qualities of being, of peace, of joy, of wisdom, of freedom, of happiness, right? Of the divine knowing that we are divinity, that we can begin to also remember and anchor in the qualities of our angelic highest selves, our galactic highest selves, our inner earth highest selves. We as humans are very, 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 very splendid, right? And I don't know this because I've embodied all of it, but I know it from glimmers of experiencing these aspects and getting more of a sense and a knowing, because I'm remembering my way home, which is what we're all doing. And we just are going through stages and phases. So I like to share and teach from the perspective of stages and phases, because we're all in different places. And I really want to ground what I share down in a way that it's accessible, so that it starts to make sense, right? So that it's not all kind of abstract, but I want it to make sense and to be clear as much as it can, if particularly if you're in the beginning stages, right? Because if you're already moving through these higher frequencies and understandings and knowings, then you're going to be understanding it from that place. I like to ground it. I like to bring it down. I like to speak to everyone then, because we're all on this one spectrum, all moving in the same direction. So that is it. That's all I want to say right now. I'm trying to keep these short. So thank you for listening. And if you would like to connect more, you can find me on Facebook under Lotus Lindley. If you are interested in my business page, community page, then that is Lotus Lindley at Art of Sacred Embodiment. And you can always go to my website. I'm not very active on it anymore. It's getting ready to transition into a new one. You can always contact me from there, though. My email is there, and that is lotuslindley.net. All right. Blessings. Have a lovely day. Take care.